The HFY the war room fell silent as the human delegation entered. Commander Ross walked at the front, his gray uniform simple compared to the colorful armor of the alien commanders around the table. Behind him, 2 junior officers carried data tablets. The Krell Empire had been pushing through Coalition space for 6 months. Every battle ended the same way. The Krell won. Their ships were bigger. Their weapons were stronger. Dozens of colonies had fallen. The Coalition was desperate. That was why they had finally contacted Earth. General Vorn, a tall alien with blue skin and 4 arms, looked at the humans with tired eyes. "Welcome, Commander Ross. We received your message. You said Earth wants to help us fight the Krell?" Ross nodded. "Yes, General. We've been watching the war. The Krell are dangerous. If they defeat the Coalition, Earth will be next. We want to stop them now." Around the table, several alien commanders whispered to each other. Some looked hopeful. Others looked doubtful. Admiral Trix, a short alien covered in green scales, leaned forward. "What can Earth offer? We need ships. We need weapons. We need soldiers. How many can you send?" Ross stood straight. "We can send 1 ship." The room erupted in noise. Aliens stood up. Some laughed. Others shouted. Admiral Trix slammed his hand on the table. "1 ship?" Trix said, "1 single ship? Is this a joke? We are losing this war." Another commander yelled, "We need fleets, not 1 small vessel." Ross waited for the noise to die down. His face remained calm. "Our ship is not small." This made the aliens laugh harder. General Vorn raised one of his arms for silence. "Commander Ross, please understand. The Krell have battleships 3 kilometers long. Their weapons can destroy a city from orbit. What can 1 Earth ship do against that?" "Our ship is a supercarrier," Ross explained. "It carries other ships inside it." "Many other ships? A carrier?" Trix said with a sneer. "We have carriers too. They hold perhaps 20 or 30 fighters. The Krell destroy them easily." "How many fighters does your carrier hold?" Another alien asked. 240, Ross said quietly. The room went quiet again, but not from respect. The aliens looked at each other in confusion. "That is impossible," Vorn said. "No ship can carry that many craft." "How big would it need to be?" 6 kilometers long, Ross replied. 2 kilometers wide. Now the laughter came back, louder than before. Admiral Trix actually stood up and pointed at Ross. "You are telling lies. No species can build a ship that size. The energy requirements alone would be impossible. Humans are primitive," another commander muttered. "They only reached space 200 years ago. They cannot have such technology." Ross pulled out his tablet. "I can show you the specifications. We don't need to see fake documents," Trix interrupted. "General Vorn, this is wasting our time. The Krell could attack any moment. Send these humans away." Vorn looked uncomfortable. "Commander Ross, perhaps you should—" The alarm sounded before he could finish. Red lights flashed throughout the war room. Every screen on the walls suddenly showed the same image, space filled with Krell warships. "Krell fleet detected." An officer shouted, "They're attacking Colony 7. "How many ships?" Vorn demanded. 60 battleships, General, plus support craft. They'll reach the colony in 2 hours. Vorn turned to his commanders. "Prepare every ship we have. We must defend that colony." Ross stepped forward. "General, let us help." Trix laughed. "With your 1 imaginary ship? Go home, human." "The carrier is already on its way," Ross said calmly. "It will arrive at Colony 7 in 90 minutes. Then it will die with the rest of us," Trix said. He walked toward the door with the other commanders. Ross watched them go. One of his junior officers whispered, "Sir, should we tell them more about the ship?" "No," Ross said. "Let them see for themselves." In space, far from the war room, something massive began to move through hyperspace. Something the galaxy had never seen before. The Krell were about to learn why humans named their ships after ancient warriors. The supercarrier Titan was going to war. Asterisk, the Arrevia own colony. 7 had 3 million people. They watched the sky as Krell ships appeared like dark clouds. The colony's defenses fired uselessly at the massive battleships. Explosions lit up the atmosphere. In orbit. The coalition fleet arrived. 40 ships against 60 Krell battleships. General Vorn stood on the bridge of his flagship, knowing this would be a hard fight. "All ships, attack formation." Vorn commanded. "Protect the colony." The space battle began. Coalition ships fired blue energy beams. Krell ships responded with red plasma cannons. 3 coalition vessels exploded in the first minute. On the Raven, Admiral Trix watched his tactical display. "Where are those humans?" They said 90 minutes. "It's been 95. Probably ran away," his first officer said. "Smart choice." Trix nodded. "Focus fire on the lead Krell battleship. All weapons." The space in front of them rippled. Reality bent. Every sensor on every ship screamed warnings. Something was coming through hyperspace. "What is that?" Trix whispered. The ripple grew bigger and bigger. The edges of the hyperspace portal stretched across 10 kilometers of space. Light poured out, bright as a star. Then the Titan emerged. "By the gods," someone gasped. The supercarrier was massive beyond imagination. Its hull was dark gray, covered in armor plates thick enough to build cities on. Weapon turrets dotted its surface like cities themselves. The ship's engines glowed blue-white, pushing the enormous vessel forward. 6 kilometers long, 2 kilometers wide, 1 kilometer tall. It made the Krell battleships look like toys. "Scan that ship," Vorn shouted. "I need numbers." His tactical officer's hands shook as he read the data. "General, the power output. It's generating more energy than our entire fleet combined. The armor is... I don't know what that material is. And the weapons... How many weapons?" Vorn demanded. 3,000 point defense guns, 800 missile tubes, 200 heavy rail cannons, 40 plasma beam arrays. "And General..." The officer looked up, his face pale. "It has launch bays." "We can see that," Trix said over the communication channel. "The humans said it carried fighters." "No, sir," the officer said. "These aren't small fighter bays. Each bay is large enough to launch ships the size of our destroyers." On the Titan, Commander Ross stood in the carrier's main bridge. The room was 300 meters long. Hundreds of officers worked at stations, coordinating the massive ship's systems. "Admiral Peters," Ross said to the gray-haired woman in the command chair. "We're in position." Admiral Peters studied the tactical display. 60 Krell battleships. They were already turning toward the Titan, seeing it as the bigger threat. "Good," she said calmly. "Let's show them what Earth builds. Launch all fighters." Along the Titan's sides, massive doors opened. Bay after bay after bay. Light spilled out from inside the carrier. And the fighters came. They poured out like angry insects. Small, fast ships with sleek designs. Each one carried missiles and rail guns. They moved in perfect formation. 240 fighters forming attack squadrons in seconds. But they weren't alone. "Bombers away," the launch officer reported. 80 bomber craft followed the fighters. These were larger, heavier, loaded with massive torpedoes designed to crack capital ships. "Gunships launching," another officer called. 40 gunship craft emerged. These were flying weapons platforms, covered in cannons and missile pods. The Krell fleet hesitated. They had never seen so many small craft launch from one ship. "All squadrons, engage the enemy," Peters ordered. "Protect the colony. Show no mercy." The human fighters accelerated to attack speed. They moved faster than any coalition craft. Their pilots had trained for years in simulators and real combat drills. They knew every trick, every tactic. The first squadron hit a Krell battleship from 6 different angles. Missiles struck shields, weakening them. Railgun rounds punched through armor. The battleship tried to track them with its weapons. But the fighters were too fast, too coordinated. On the coalition ships, aliens watched in amazement. "They're not just attacking," Vorn's tactical officer said. "They're hunting. Look at the formations. They're working together like a school of predator fish." Another Krell battleship exploded as 3 bomber squadrons hit it simultaneously. The torpedoes the humans used were terrifying. They didn't just explode. They burned through shields like they weren't there. "What are those weapons?" Trix demanded. Ross's voice came over the open channel. "Nuclear-tipped, armor-piercing torpedoes. We use them for cracking asteroids. They work well on ships, too." Nuclear. The coalition species had abandoned nuclear weapons centuries ago, considering them too primitive and dangerous. The humans had made them into an art form. The Titan itself began firing. The heavy rail cannons launched solid slugs of metal at incredible speeds. Each round hit with the force of a small meteor. Krell shields buckled. Armor crumpled. Asterisk. The Krell commander, Lord Drax, watched from his flagship with growing concern. "Focus all fire on that carrier. Destroy it." 20 Krell battleships turned their weapons on the Titan. Red plasma beams struck the supercarrier's shields. Explosions covered the massive ship. But the Titan didn't slow down. "Shields at 80%, the defensive officer reported calmly. Admiral Peters smiled. "Return fire. All forward batteries." The front of the Titan lit up like a sun going nova. Hundreds of weapons fired at once. The space between the carrier and the Krell fleet turned white with energy. 3 Krell battleships simply ceased to exist. On the coalition ships, no one was laughing anymore. They were all staring in shock. Lord Drax made a decision. All ships. Retreat. Retreat now. But it was too late. Human fighters were everywhere, cutting off escape routes. Bombers hunted the damaged ships. The Titan advanced like an ancient god of war, unstoppable and terrible. The battle had turned, and the galaxy would never see humans the same way again. Asterisk, the VIC Terror why the Krell retreat was chaos. Ships tried to break away from the battle, but human fighters stayed on them like wolves chasing prey. Every time a Krell battleship tried to activate its hyperspace drive, torpedoes would strike its engines. The humans weren't just fighting. They were hunting. Lord Drax pounded his command console. "Get us out of here. I don't care about the other ships. Just get my ship to hyperspace." His flagship was the largest in the Krell fleet, 4 kilometers of weapons and armor. It had destroyed 100 coalition vessels in this war. But now it was surrounded by 30 human fighters, all firing in perfect coordination. "My lord," his tactical officer said nervously, "something is approaching our ship. Fast." On the screen, a new type of human craft appeared. These were different from the fighters. Bulky, armored, with no visible weapons. They moved straight toward the Krell flagship's hull. "Boarding craft," Drax whispered. "They're going to board us?" The first human boarding ship slammed into the Krell hull. Magnetic clamps locked it in place. Metal-cutting beams began slicing through the armor. 30 seconds later, the humans were inside. Lieutenant Price led the 1st Marine Squad through the breach. 20 soldiers in powered armor, carrying weapons designed for close combat. Behind their helmets, tactical displays showed the ship's layout, stolen from Krell databases months ago. "Move fast," Price commanded. "Secure the engine room. Don't let them activate hyperspace." The Marines moved through the Krell ship like a storm. The Krell soldiers were big, strong, and well-armed. But they had never fought humans before. They didn't know about the centuries of war humanity had waged on itself. They didn't understand that humans had perfected ground combat long before reaching space. Every corner was cleared with precision. Every room was taken with minimal casualties. The Krell soldiers fought hard, but they fought like individuals. The humans fought as one unit, covering each other, moving together, thinking together. In 15 minutes, the Marines reached the engine room. The Krell engineers tried to activate the hyperspace drive anyway. Price fired a magnetic pulse grenade. Every electronic system in the room died. "Engine room secure," he reported. "Ship is dead in space." On the Titan's bridge, Admiral Peters watched the tactical display. The Krell fleet was broken. 23 of their battleships were destroyed. 15 more were crippled. The rest were trying to escape, but only a few would make it. "Send the message," Peters said. Ross activated the wideband channel. His voice reached every ship in the battle, Coalition and Krell alike. "Krell vessels, this is Commander Ross of the Earth Supercarrier Titan. You have 30 seconds to surrender. Drop your shields and power down your weapons. Any ship that tries to escape will be destroyed. Any ship that continues fighting will be destroyed. You have 30 seconds." Silence filled the channel. Then, one by one, Krell ships began powering down. Red lights turned to yellow, then to dark. Shields collapsed. Weapons went offline. Lord Drax sat in his command chair, staring at nothing. His fleet was gone. His pride was shattered. These humans, these primitive newcomers, had destroyed him. "Send the surrender," he said quietly. On Colony 7, 3 million people watched the sky clear. The Krell ships were retreating or surrendering. A massive Earth carrier hung in orbit like a guardian angel. Children pointed at it. Adults wept with relief. In General Vorn's flagship, the bridge was completely silent. Everyone stared at the tactical display, trying to understand what they had just witnessed. "General," his communication officer said softly, "Commander Ross is requesting to speak with you." Vorn nodded slowly. Ross's face appeared on the screen. "General Vorn," Ross said, "the battle is over. Colony 7 is safe. We captured 15 Krell ships, including their flagship. The rest are fleeing Coalition space." "Commander Ross," Vorn said carefully, "I owe you an apology. We laughed at you. We doubted your offer. We were fools." "You weren't fools," Ross replied. "You just didn't understand what humans are capable of. Most species reach space through peace and cooperation. Humans reached space while still fighting each other. We've had 5,000 years of constant warfare. We learned to build weapons because we had no choice. Every ship design, every tactic, every strategy was paid for in human blood over centuries of conflict." Admiral Chutz's voice came over the channel. He sounded shaken. "Commander, why did you help us? You could have stayed hidden. Let the galaxy destroy itself, then taken whatever you wanted." Ross was quiet for a moment. "Because that's not who we are. Yes, we know war. Yes, we're good at it. But we fight to protect, not to conquer. We fight so others don't have to. The Krell threatened innocent people. We couldn't just watch." Admiral Peters stepped forward on the screen. "General Vorn, the Coalition is welcome to join Earth in a mutual defense treaty. We'll help you rebuild. We'll help you train. And if the Krell ever come back, they'll face not just the Coalition, but humanity as well." Vorn felt something he hadn't felt in months. Hope. "On behalf of the Coalition," he said formally. I accept. And Commander Ross, Admiral Peters, thank you. Thank you for showing us that we were not alone. The news spread across the galaxy in hours. The Krell Empire had been defeated by one human ship. Other empires held emergency meetings. Everyone asked the same questions. How strong were the humans? How many supercarriers did they have? What else were they hiding? On Earth, the government received 100 diplomatic requests in one day. Species that had ignored humanity for decades suddenly wanted to talk, to trade, to become friends. The humans had been laughing stocks that morning. By evening, they were the most feared military power in known spacedot and in orbit around Colony 7. The Titan hung silently in space. Its weapons were powered down. Its fighters had returned home. But everyone who looked at it knew the truth. Humanity had arrived. And the galaxy would never be the same dot inside the carrier. Commander Ross stood at an observation window, looking at the stars. A young officer approached him. Sir, what do we do now? She asked. Ross smiled. Now we go home. But we stay ready. Because the galaxy just learned that humans don't bluff. And sometimes, the best way to keep peace. He looked at the massive ship around him, at the weapons and fighters, and the strength of Earth made real. Dot is to be strong enough that no one wants war. The Titan turned toward home, its engines lighting up the darkness. The age of humanity had begun. The end. Asterisk.